Hey, welcome to Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women. So, what does it mean to not let a woman tie up your time, and why is that important? Well, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about what it means to not let a woman tie up your time, and then I'm going to go over three specific examples so you know exactly what it means and why it's so important by the end of this presentation. So, let's start out with what it means to not let a woman tie up your time. So, this is basically any situation where you're kind of giving her more commitment than she's giving to you. So, this kind of situation happens a lot more often in the early stages of dating, the first 2 to 3 months after you meet a woman, and she's not fully deeply in love with you yet. Maybe she has high interest in you, but she's not deeply in love yet. And you're not in a committed relationship with her yet. It can still happen later on, but most of the time it's going to happen in that early window. And it's the most likely to happen during that first 1 to 6 date window in the very beginning of your connection with a woman. So that's when it's normally going to happen, but it can happen later as well. And it's still important not to let it happen. And so we're going to talk about some situations at different times in your connection with a woman so you know exactly what this means and so you can avoid it from now on. And why is it important to not let a woman tie up your time? Well, two reasons. In your connection with her, it puts her romantic interest level at risk. It can lower a woman's interest in you if you kind of give her too much commitment and tie up too much of your time for her before she's doing that for you at the same level, and before she's all the way deeply in love with you, and before she commits to you and becomes your official girlfriend, for example. And so when it comes to male female dynamics, it puts you on the back foot and puts you in a really bad, weak position with a woman. And that can easily lower her interest level in you. And then on your side, just within yourself, when you do this, you're going to feel a little bit more insecure and a little bit less confident. And so you don't want it to happen because you want to keep feeling confident every day when you wake up. And you also want her interest level in you to go up over time instead of falling. And so we're not going to let a woman tie up her time from now on. And that's why it's critical to your dating and relationship success. And here's the thing, it's not like a woman is in there plotting, twirling her fake mustache that she just put on in a back room, smoking a cigar, going, ooh, how can I kind of get this guy and tie up his time? It's not usually a conscious process. And same thing for you. Sometimes guys actually tie up their own time with a woman and they're not conscious of it. So we're going to be conscious of this from now on, and then we're not going to let it happen. And because of that, you're going to respect yourself more. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to feel more secure. And then women are going to be more attracted to you and more interested in you over time as well. And by the way, another thing when it comes to male female dynamics is that we tend to have a thing called empathetic blindness, which means that we have a hard time empathizing with people who have different experiences than us. And that's why I'm excited to have the Wingro method as the sponsor of this video. The Wingro method was founded by renowned dating expert and fellow YouTuber Marnie, your personal Wingirl. Her YouTube channel now has over 1.3 million subscribers, and she's appeared on MTV, Dr. Drew, Ask Men, and many other major publications. I even have personally interviewed her twice, so I can tell you from my own experience that she really knows her stuff. And as a woman, Marnie from the Wingro method has also experienced all the stuff that we're talking about from the other side. And because she's an expert and really knows what she's talking about, she can help you with that. Her main goal is to help you improve your dating life. And that's why she created the F formula. Marnie has helped thousands of men from around the world transform their dating lives with her science-backed flirting method, the F formula. And it's been used by tens of thousands of men all over the world. This proven system helps you attract the women that you want and build your confidence. It's not for guys who are content with being alone forever. It's for those who are ready to break free from their flirting failures and finally date the women they deserve. Even if you think a woman is out of your league, this step-by-step formula can change that. It shows you exactly how to make a woman eager to escalate with you, date you, sleep with you, and be with you. And you don't need to look like an actor or a male model or have millions in your bank account for this to work. With the F formula, those things just aren't necessary. Apply the F formula method, and you'll start seeing results almost immediately. And why should you trust Marnie's F formula? Well, over 100,000 men have already experienced life-changing results from it, so it's a proven formula in the real world, and it's also backed by science. And because the Winggrow method is sponsoring this video, they're offering my viewers an unbeatable deal. Just click the first link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen now to grab your exclusive preview of the F formula completely free. Plus, if you decide to pick up the full program, you'll get an extra 20% off. If you're tired of failing at flirting and being stuck on the sidelines, stop wasting time. Take control of your dating life. Click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and get access right away. And so now that we understand that not letting a woman tie up your time is important both for you and your connection with the woman, let's go over 3 specific examples of how this applies in real life so that you can make sure this isn't happening to you when you meet the right woman for you. And then after that, we're actually going to go over one bonus example where a guy's kind of offering to tie up his time for a woman, and we should avoid that as well. And if you fully understand and implement this concept in your dating life, you're going to have more success. So let's go ahead and start with the first example of not letting a woman tie up your time. And so the first example is you ask a woman out on a date, she agrees, and then you kind of go to the coffee shop or the happy hour or whatever it is, and you're kind of chilling there waiting for her to come. And then maybe like 30 minutes before or 10 minutes before or right when the date's about to start, she texts you and says, hey, can we move it back by 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours? If she asks to move the date back by too long, it would be a mistake to sit there and wait for her. So if she just texts you something like, hey, I'm running a little bit late, I'll be there in 15 minutes, that's different. But if you're supposed to meet at 6:30 or 7 or something like that, and she's like, hey, I'm probably going to be there around 9, is that okay? Well, no, it's not okay for you to just sit there and doing nothing and waiting for her. Now you're giving her extra time that she didn't earn yet. And it's not good for you or your connection with her or her interest in you if she has any. Now, as we know around here, if she has zero interest in you romantically from the beginning, it doesn't really matter what you do. But if she has a little bit of interest in you and you just sit there and wait for her for 3 hours because she said, hey, let's make the date later, that's going to lower her interest in you and her impression of you. We don't want to do that. We want it to go up over time. So if that happens, you're not going to say like, no, it's not okay, back aggressively. But you're not going to sit there and wait for her, right? You're not going to let her tie up your time like that. So you're supposed to be there at 7. You show up at 7 or 6:55 or whatever and go in there right on time. And then she texts you like, hey, can we push it to 9? Then just say, you know what? I actually have an early morning tomorrow. Let's meet up a different day. And don't give her a specific day and time right away. And then what I recommend after that is waiting 4 to 9 days after that and then asking her on your next date so that she gets the message subconsciously, not from you saying it or complaining about it. We want to communicate the subtext of this because that's what she's doing. In her subconscious mind, she's trying to see how you're going to react to this, or she just, kind of didn't think about it too much, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it was conscious or subconscious or not. You're not going to tolerate it, but you're also not going to kind of aggressively complain to her or make it a big deal. You're just going to move on with your night. So let's say that you showed up to a coffee shop. You're going to just go order yourself a coffee that you want or some kind of drink that you want, and you're going to enjoy it, and then you're going to go. And when you respond to her, you're going to say just something like, you know what, I got to get up kind of early in the morning. Let's try a different day, whatever it is in your own personality style. And then you're going to leave that open. You're not going to try to immediately reschedule. Now, while you're waiting 4 to 9 days to try one more time to ask her out on one more date, during that time window, if she texts you to meet up on a specific day, then you can say yes and go with that. And if she never does this again, no problem. Now you're both on the right track again, and you just keep following the system with her and taking those measured, slow steps forward and pulling back in between like we talk about. So now you're back on track. But if she does it twice, then personally for me, I would just move on from her. Stop contacting her and move on if she tries to do something like this twice, because she's not respecting your time And you're not going to respect yourself if you let her tie up your time like that. You don't want to be sitting around and waiting for her very long. Now, let's say you go to pick her up at her house on the second or third date, and it takes her an extra 5 minutes to get ready than she said. So she comes out at 7:05. Okay. You can wait a few minutes because it takes women longer to get ready sometimes. But if she's consistently doing that to you and you're waiting in the car for 30 minutes when you get there, now she's not really respecting your time. And you have to have a talk with her about that and draw a boundary or move on to someone else who respects your time more, unless that's something you can tolerate. And in that case, she's not really necessarily trying to do it to you. Maybe she's just like that. And then you have to decide if that's a deal breaker for you or not. But if you're supposed to meet up at 7 and it's like 6:45 and she's like texting you at 6:45 saying, "Hey, can we do it at 9 instead?" That's a little bit too much. So in that situation, we're not going to wait that long. Because that extra time, that 2 hours or 3 hours that you give her there is not time that she's earned. And when you give a woman attention and time and energy that she hasn't earned yet, that lowers her interest. And it puts you on the back foot, makes you feel less secure and less confident. We don't want that. We want you to be sharp and confident going forward. All right, next. This is a big one, and it's when she asks you to confirm a date later, or she asks you if she can let you know later. Now, there's some nuance here, right? So when you ask a woman out on a date and you say, "Hey, let's meet up on Wednesday at 7:30," if she texts you back something or tells you something if you're talking to her on the phone, like, "Hey, can I let you know by the end of tonight?" So let's say it's Monday, you're texting and you're asking her out for Wednesday, and she's like, "Can I let you know by the end of today?" That's a little bit different because it's specific and you know when she's going to respond. It's still not as good as her just immediately checking on her stuff and then getting back to you right away and saying, "Yeah, that sounds great." Or, "Hey, I can't make it on Wednesday. Can we do it on Thursday?" She gives you a specific counteroffer. That's the ideal response. But if she says something like, "Hey, can I let you know by the end of today?" Your answer should be like, "Yeah, sure. Okay. Let me know." And if she doesn't let you know by the end of the day, now when she texts you back, you're going to cancel the date. So she says by the end of the day, then the next day she texts you. When she texts you, respond back like, "Oh, hey, I didn't hear from you yesterday, so I actually made plans for Thursday." And then you wait a week and ask her out on the next date because you're not going to let her tie up your time, right? But you're going to be a little flexible when it's appropriate. And so if she says, "Hey, can I let you know by the end of the day?" That's different. That's like, "Okay, yeah, sure." But if she says, "Hey, can I let you know on Wednesday in the morning?" Now you're going to be waiting like Monday night. If you asked her out on Monday, you got to wait Monday night. You're not sure if you're going to go out on Thursday or not. Tuesday, you're not sure if she's going to. And then finally, Wednesday, you wake up and you're going to find out if you have a date or not that night. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let her tie up your time like that. Because again, it lowers your standing in her mind and it makes you feel less confident and secure inside for no reason. So you're not going to do that. Anytime she tries to do something like this, we're not going to let it happen. So if she says, "Can I let you know on Wednesday?" You can just say something like, "Hey, you know what? I actually have some alternative plans if we're not going to go out on Wednesday. So I'd like to know today if it's possible," or something like that. But you're not going to just sit there and wait for her to text you on Wednesday, whether you're going out with her or not, when it's Monday when you asked her out. Make sense? All right, here's another way. The other side of this is when she says kind of yes, but then asks you to confirm. Like you ask her out on Monday for Wednesday, and she's like, "Yeah, that sounds cool. Text me on Wednesday morning to confirm." Well, again, she hasn't given you a clear yes or no to your date invitation. And that whole time before you know for sure is you giving her time and commitment that she hasn't earned yet. At least subconsciously, that's what's happening. We're not going to do that. So if she says, "Yeah, that sounds fun. Text me on Wednesday to confirm," you're not going to do that. What I would do if that's the case is when Wednesday rolls around, I would text her in the morning and just say, "Hey, you know what? Actually, something came up today. Let's meet up another time." And then I would wait 4 to 9 more days and try asking her out one more time. So now you're communicating very strongly that you're not going to just sit around and wait around for her. And you're not doing it in a way that's kind of whiny or complaining or anything like that. And you don't really have enough time in with her yet, if it's the first or second date, to talk to her about it directly. It's too serious. it's not in the serious stage yet. So it would be way too heavy and serious to have a deep discussion about this with her. So you're just going to communicate with your actions just like she's doing. You're going to do it back a little bit. You're going to, since she's playing, instead of just saying yes or no, you're going to play back and you're going to win. And if she has interest in you, that's going to make her more interested. And if she doesn't, it doesn't matter anyway. So this is always what we should do. We should never let a woman tie up our time like this. So if she says, yeah, that sounds fun, text me on Wednesday to confirm. Do not confirm on Wednesday. That's a mistake. You can text her on Wednesday and just say, hey, by the way, something came up. Let's meet up another day. Now she's like, oh my gosh, like he's pushing me away and being a challenge. Like no other guy's ever done this. I'm attractive. What the heck? What's going on? Now she's going to start thinking about you. And if she has any romantic interest, it's going to start going up instead of down. And then when you wait 4 to 9 days and you just ask her out again, now she's just going to say, yeah, that sounds fun. I'll be there. And then she's going to show up. And if you ask her out that second time and she still pulls something like this where she doesn't give you a clear yes and actually show up, then you're going to delete her number and not contact her anymore. And you're going to move on to a woman who has romantic interest in you. But you're not going to let her tie up your time. You're not going to feel that kind of back foot position for those 2 days before you confirm with her. You're not going to ever do that. You're not going to put yourself in that position because you respect yourself too much. And that's why women respect and eventually fall in love with you over time, because you have such high self-respect and you show it with your actions and how you deal with these little situations. All right, so again, there's a difference if she says, can I let you know tomorrow at 10 a.m. because I might have a meeting and I'll find out then on Wednesday night? Then you're like, yeah, okay, sounds good. She's being very specific about it. But if she says like, yeah, I'll let you know on Wednesday morning and it's Monday, or she asks you to confirm on Wednesday and it's Monday, don't let that happen. All right, lastly, this is another big one, and I can't tell you the number of times I've talked about this topic and how men just ignore it anyway. And so another example that's a little bit less clear of a woman tying up your time is having a long distance relationship with her before you're actually fully committed to each other and before she's deeply in love with you. So if you have a relationship established for a few months and then one of you goes away for a month or two and then comes back at a specific time, that absolutely can work. No problem. But if you have to build it from the very beginning long distance, you live in cities that are 2 hours apart, or you live in different countries, or you live across the world, and you're building it from scratch, that's usually not going to work out. And it has nothing to do with you or her or your connection. Most of the time, 99% of the time, it doesn't work out. And the only times I have seen it work out is because the woman made it happen because of her interest level, and nothing you can do can stop it if she wants to do it. She's going to try to make it work. So it has to come from her. You have nothing that you can do. There's no kind of steps that you can take to make it happen. She has to make it happen when it's long distance. And that's the problem with it. You can't put her through the process that makes her fall deeply in love. It's all based on her, and we're relying on her interest level now completely. And there's not a lot of things you can do to raise it when she's long distance. Because kind of committing to her before you, here's the thing, right? Like if she's over in a different country and you're basically exclusively talking to her and you're not really going on dates and you're not seeing her and you're not seeing each other's body language and she's not tapping your arm when you make a joke, etc., you're not actually dating any women in your local area. So it's already anti-pre-selection because it means that you don't really have good options in your area that you can date. Otherwise, why would you be on the phone with this woman so much? And it's anti-challenge because you're not able to ask her out, have a great time, and then disappear for a little bit and let her think and wonder about you. So a long distance connection before you have something fully established is a very weak position to be in. And you're basically tying up your time with this woman who may or may not ever be a realistic option for you. And here's the thing, right? Like, if she's moving to your city at a specific time in the near future, then when she gets there, take her out for your first date. That's the very beginning of something because long distance is local. I can't emphasize this enough. It's very important. And you might ignore it if you have high interest in a woman in another country or another city, but you should listen to this because no matter how awesome you are and how much you know about this, The very fact that your connection is long distance already puts all of that in jeopardy. It doesn't matter how good you are with this stuff. If you're doing long distance, it's not going to work the same way. And so if she's moving to your city soon or you're moving to her city at some point in the near future, then of course you can flirt with her a little bit. And then when she gets to your city or you get to her city, you can ask her out on your first date. But you don't really want to try to build something with her over long distance, because here's what happens. Even if you do kind of make it a little bit and one of you moves to the other one, if you built too much up before, you both have expectations of what the other person is that aren't realistic because you haven't been around them in person. And then one of you is very likely to be disappointed in how it actually is in the real world with each other. And it's better to build something with someone slowly over time in real life in your hometown than to try to do this over the wires of technology. And again, a lot of people are going to ignore this, but you're basically tying up your time. If you have high interest in a woman in a different city or a different country, and she's not an actual realistic option to go on a date with next week, that means you're probably not going on dates with available women in your city who you could actually date, who are real options for you to have a real relationship with. And that's you giving her a huge amount of commitment before she's committed to you, before she's deeply in love with you. And so, with very rare exceptions, I highly recommend you to focus on women in your city in terms of if you want a long-term relationship. Now, if you don't care about a relationship and you're just having fun and going for hookups and stuff like that right now, then of course you can kind of flirt with women in different areas. And when you go to those areas, you can offer to meet up with them. Just say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be in your town a couple days from now. Let's meet up. Or, hey, by the way, I'm in town right now. Let's go grab a drink, whatever. But if you want the right woman for you to fall and stay deeply in love with you, starting off long distance before she's fully committed to you and actually realistically deeply in love with you, where her romantic interest in you is genuinely at 9 out of 10 or higher, puts your connection with her at risk and puts you in a weak, bad position where you're not going to be able to feel secure and confident because you're not actually dating her in real life. It's kind of a mirage over there in some ways, even if it is real. Maybe both of you like each other. But over time, if it's long distance for too long, the logistics start to get in the way a lot. And all of a sudden, she meets a new guy at work, and it's like, oh, I kind of like him too. And then she starts pulling away. Or you meet someone and you start pulling away. And it really is difficult to maintain that kind of a connection over long distance over time. Again, if she's coming to your city or you're moving to her city at a specific time in the near future, okay, you can kind of go back and forth with her a little bit. And then when you get there or she gets to you, take her out on a date. But we don't want to put ourselves in a position where you're fully committed to her and you can't even go on a date with her yet. And you're not able to go on dates with other women who are good options for you in your city because you're too hung up on her and your connection with her. So be very careful with long distance situations, because long-term relationships are local. At some point, you got to be together. And then lastly, here's a bonus example of not letting her tie up your time. And this is a situation where a man is kind of volunteering to tie up his time for a woman, and we want to avoid that as well. So this example is planning a trip with her in the future before she's fully committed to you and fully, deeply in love with you. This is a mistake. So let's say you've gone out on 3 or 4 dates with a woman and she seems really cool. She seems to be very into you. You're having a great time with her. And then you start thinking like, oh, let's think about the future. You kind of give up on all these ideas and you think like, oh, it's fine now. I can drop my guard and just do whatever. And you start thinking like, oh, it'd be really fun to go to this place for a weekend. And so you bring it up with her on your 5th date or whatever, and you're like, hey, let's go to Cabo for the weekend, or let's go to LA for the weekend, or let's go to New York for the weekend, or even like, hey, I'm going to Thailand for a week. Maybe you could join me. Here's the problem with that. First of all, when you're spending that much time with a woman in a row before she's fully deeply in love with you, it puts her romantic interest level at risk. It's hard to do everything correctly and to be a challenge when you're spending 2 or 3 days at a time with a woman. And it's very dangerous to do that before her interest level is all the way at 9 out of 10 or higher. So if it's at 7 or 8, it's going to put that at risk. And you want to make it all the way home. So you can wait until she's all the way at 9, and then you can do this. Then it's no problem. Of course, you can go on a trip after that. But before that, there's no reason to put her romantic interest at risk by spending too much time with her at once one time, just because you want to. Just be a little patient and say, like, if she's still into me after 3 months, then we can plan it. Because she's deeply in love with me now, we're in a committed relationship, of course we can go on trips. Before that, it's dangerous for her interest level. And then when it comes to kind of tying up your time for her, you're also doing that if this weekend trip or this week-long trip is in the future. So if you talk about this on your 5th date, and let's say it's like July 5th or something like that, and you're like, hey, I've got this trip in November I'm going on. It would be cool if you could join me. Or like, hey, I'm thinking the 2nd week of August, we can go on a weekend trip to Vegas, whatever it is. Because that's so far in the future and you're not all the way home with her yet in terms of now she's officially committed to you and she's actually deeply in love with you, which is more important than that even. When you're doing that before that process is complete, so let's say you did 5 dates with her, and it takes usually 6 to 10 dates for her to fall fully deeply in love with you. Now, after that 5th date, until that trip happens, that's all time that you've tied up with her. You've committed to her more than she's committed to you. So those weeks or months up until then, now you're on the back foot because you're already committed to that. And all that time in between is time you're giving to her before she's earned it yet. And you definitely shouldn't volunteer to do this. So when she tries to put you in that position, we're going to react by not allowing it to happen. And you also should avoid putting yourself in this position. So just wait. It takes about 2 to 3 months usually for a woman to fall deeply in love with you. And once that process is complete, then say, hey, let's go to Vegas for the weekend. And then it's great. But before she's officially committed to you, and before she's actually all the way deeply in love with you, it's dangerous to do this, and it puts her romantic interest level at risk and puts you on the back foot because now during those whole weeks and months leading up to that potential trip, you're giving her all of that time when she hasn't earned it yet by committing to you and raising her interest high enough. So that's what not letting a woman tie up your time means, and some really common examples of when this happens in the early stages of dating with a woman. And now that you're aware of all this, you can make sure that you're not allowing her to tie up your time and also that you're not offering to tie up your time for her. And if you avoid ever letting a woman tie up a lot of your time like this, you're going to do a lot better. And you're also going to feel better in your daily life because you're not going to be operating from a weak position and off of your back foot. So from now on, don't let a woman tie up your time, especially if you like her a lot, because that's when it's the most important to do. And again, if she has actual romantic interest in you, she's going to respect you more when you operate this way, and then she's going to like you more and love you more over time. And if she does have genuine interest in you and you let her tie up your time, or you even offer to tie up your time for her, that puts her romantic interest level at risk, and it can definitely crush her romantic interest in you into the ground. So we want to avoid it both for you and for her, and also for your connection with her. So the best thing for everyone is for you to not let a woman tie up your time. So from now on, we're not going to. And if you want to know exactly what you should do when you meet the right woman for you to make absolutely sure that she falls in love with you and then stays in love with you forever, if you want a wife or a girlfriend, then you should pick up our best-selling Attract and Keep Her system if you haven't already. So inside the Attract and Keep Her system, we go over exactly what to do step by step with the woman from the first moment you meet her until you've been with her for 50 years so that you're never confused about what's happening or what you should do with the woman. And that way you can operate with that confidence that we want to operate with, and you can lead that process forward, which includes also the confidence of not letting her tie up your time. And so everything in the Attract and Keep Her system is based on what a woman actually responds to in terms of raising her genuine romantic feelings for you over time, and then never falling out of love with you at some point. And so if that's what you're looking for, then go to attractandkeepher.com/system. That's attractandkeepher.com/system, and pick up your copy of Attract and Keep Her now. And I highly encourage you to go over it 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 times just to make sure you get everything down so it kind of becomes part of who you are. And then it becomes easier to kind of take all the steps because you know why everything's happening, you know exactly what to do, and then you can move with confidence. And women are going to respond positively to that extra confidence as well, just like when you don't let a woman tie up your time. And then if you're not really looking for a relationship right now and you're just going for hookups and you want to do it in an ethical way that feels good for you and for the women that you're dating, and also make sure you're protecting yourself out there and you're just making sure it's good for everyone, then go ahead and pick up the Good Guy Guide system right now if you haven't already. So inside the Good Guy Guide, we covered the exact process that you can lead a woman through that you're attracted to spike her attraction to you really quickly, and to also make sure she feels really comfortable with you. So that way you have the best possible chance of ending up at your place with her or at her place with her. And also exactly what you should do from there and the next day. So if you're just having fun for now, then go to datingadviceforomenwholovewomen.com/GGG. That's datingadviceforomenwholovewomen.com/GGG. And go over the Good Guy Guide starting today. And then use it with the next attractive woman that you meet. And you're going to have a lot better results than if you're not using this process. And then lastly, of course, we have a lot of free material for you as well. It's not just this channel. We have free ebooks and 2 free courses available for you on our website. And to get all of that awesome free stuff, just go to datingadviceforomenwholovewomen.com. That's datingadviceforomenwholovewomen.com. I'm Jim Wolfe with Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women. From now on, do not let a woman tie up your time, especially if you really like her. I'll talk to you later.